listen up. We've got a war zone here today, right in our heartland. And across the USA, these multinational bastards don't use tanks and guns, it's true. But they've declared a war on us, fight back, it's up to you. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. And it's time we started calling the shots. Going to work could be the death of you and me, but we're not unarmed. Our weapons.
So, happy International Women's Day, Róisín.
Thank you, and the same to you, Patricia.
Yes. Now, we have both read the conversation between Clara Zetkin and Lenin back in 1920. Now, that's 105 years ago. And I think we need to remind everyone how International Women's Day was founded. And one of the founders was Clara Zetkin. Now, that wonderful conversation that she had with Lenin, is there anything in that conversation that stood out to you, Róisín?
The thing that stands out to me reading it today in 2025 is that both Clara and Lenin recognised the importance of women in the class struggle and that we're great working class fighters. And, you know, we need to be reminded of that because I feel that today, you know, there's a very strong liberal movement that has lost sight of that important message, that we forget that this is a class issue. It's not so much about men versus women.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, I feel, the way that, unfortunately, International Women's Day has been corrupted. So I really want to hold on to that message. And if we have any message to impart as socialist Republicans, it must be to remind women of the class struggle that we have to fight together.
Yeah, and you had said to me earlier how liberal feminists had hijacked it. And I think maybe it's important to look up how neoliberal policies, you know, there's a push to get more women into politics. But what for? To drive neoliberal policies that keep women oppressed. And I think perhaps the executive, the Stormont executive, we have two women at the top of the executive. And what has it changed? What has changed for women?
Exactly.
I think that's, and there's one thing that I would like to point out. A couple of years ago, the health care sector were out on strike for better pay. And the First Minister, Michelle O'Neill, arrived on the picket line. And she had already signed a letter to the department, or from the department, that constrained pay rise. And all of the media were around her. And they didn't pick up on the fact that she had signed away the rights of the healthcare workers' pay rise. The media didn't mention it. The letter was circulated later on social media. But I just think the hypocrisy of that is mind-blowing.
It is. I mean, that's a symptom of the system as well. I mean, where there's this illusion that, you know, we need more women in positions of power. But if they occupy positions of power that continue to prop up the system that is actually um, against the workers, well, then it doesn't matter if you have a woman CEO or a woman occupying like First Minister's office in Stormont, or even should there be, a woman president or a woman Taoiseach. The same system is being maintained, and it's a very cruel, violent system, and it is not one that serves workers like the healthcare workers there. Like that's just awful. I mean, the hypocrisy, the irony, whatever you want to call it, even the audacity. But the media is another mechanism anyway that manufactures consent for this kind of hypocrisy. So, the system is has many layers and many mechanisms to kind of trick people into thinking that, these um, perceived so-called small wins um, are something to celebrate. It's the absolute opposite.
Yeah, and of course we have to look at the struggle for young families today, young women, young families who are trying to pay a mortgage, childcare costs, um, all of all of this that really keeps women out of politics.
It does.
Women have the burden of, predominantly, regardless of whatever support they may have from a supportive husband, family, partner. Childcare is very, very expensive and very time consuming. And I think perhaps we certainly need to look at policies that free women up to participate more in society.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But that brings me to Ireland today. And of course, I think it's very important to shout out our solidarity message to our sisters and the mothers in Palestine and Lebanon and all over the world, those who are struggling in war and in genocide. But it brings me to look at what is happening in Ireland today. And it's very, very worrying that the Irish government are moving towards NATO, and they have actually declared that they're going to purchase fighter jets at something like 100 million cost per year. And we have the worst housing crisis in history, probably. Well, maybe not in history, but certainly in this era. We have all these waiting lists for help, and they're going to spend more on
weapons.
Military.
Yeah.
On weapons.
So yeah, they're gearing up for war. Like you said, Patricia, we're already flat to the tin. We're already exhausted. We're already juggling a million balls in the air between work, childcare, running here, there, and everywhere. We're so distracted as well by, just keeping things afloat and keeping a roof over our heads and bread on the table that that's exhausting in itself, that we can't even, there's no time to turn our attention to, the serious matters that affect all of our lives. And I mean, these are the conversations that the women I know want to have, and they want to be active and they want to robustly resist. And yet they're feeling torn because the system is holding them back, saying, I can't do this because I have to drop the child here. I can't do that because, so they're completely disabled by, this oppressive system that is keeping us nearly paralyzed from being able to resist, from being able to act. So, something has to give. And those women who are out on the streets, I admire them because they're leaving the dishes, they're leaving the kitchen sink. Some of them are bringing the children with them. Some of them are they're making huge sacrifices to be on the streets, to have a voice, but it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that hard.
Well, I mean, I saw a social post as a mother who will not allow her son to be cannon fodder for NATO. I do believe that the mothers, the sisters, our brothers, fathers, I do believe that there will be resistance to the to move towards NATO, because no one wants their child to go and fight in senseless wars. And I think, have they not learned anything from history? Redmond sending young Irish, working class young Irish men to war. 35,000 perished. And for what? Surely the people will waken up and absolutely resist this.
They are. They are. I mean, it's great to see. We were at Leinster House early this morning, and it's great to see women there, and even in the press release, mothers vocalising their objection to the manoeuvres that are being made towards NATO. And there's one thing for certain: the Irish mothers of this country will absolutely not, as I said to my son, over my dead body. Over my dead body. There is no way that we are going to sacrifice more of the working class. It's a disgrace what's happening. And I mean, every child is somebody's child, and you don't have to
Yes,
even be a mother, to identify with young, powerless people being just used, as cannon fodder, like you said, for another agenda. And that agenda, again, serves the ruling class. It doesn't serve ordinary people like me or you.
yeah. And those who are proposing to send the children to war, we wonder if they will be sending their own children.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an absolute disgrace, really. And the other thing I wanted to mention was Micheál Martin going to the White House to meet President Trump, to meet the genociders. And I think it's very important for the Palestinian people to be aware that Micheál Martin does not represent the hundreds and thousands of people who have been on the streets protesting against the genocide here in this country. Mm. And I think it's really important. And just speaking of female leaders, women leaders, now I know that Mary Lou McDonald has declared that she will not be going to the White House this year, although they went last year to meet genocide Joe Biden. But if she were Taoiseach, that she would go.
Look, this is again, this is what we're up against, serving, imperialists, to bending the knee every single time and using this old excuse of, well, it's to maintain diplomatic relations and we must, embrace diplomacy at all times. This is not diplomacy. This is acting like a sycophant to your masters. And this is, abdicating your responsibility as a representative for your people, abdicating that and saying, what can I do for you, master? Because really, anybody who assumes a position in Leinster House is and going over and doing deals like economic, political, military deals with the US is just buying into imperialism. And I mean, the hypocrisy in particular of Sinn Féin, who, were established to fight British imperialism and British rule, to now just replace, not that it's replaced, we still have British occupation and we still have British dominance in so many facets of our political lives here in Ireland. But the neo-colonists now, which is the US empire, who
Yeah,
are occupying, especially the city of Dublin, to do business with them, this is not what diplomacy is. This is maintaining economic, political, cultural, social, um, you could say bonds, but I call them chains. And it's just allowing the chains to lock further and further around us, and it's suffocating us, you know. Apart from our moral obligation to stand, just the utter hypocrisy. You can't say you're against genocide, but you're pro-imperialism, Western imperialism. You just can't. It's a paradox, it's an oxymoron, and we're calling out that out. Bullshit is what it is. And if we don't say it honestly and clearly, then we're allowing, mainstream media to continue to feed the lies. We're allowing it. We're just succumbing to it as if, oh, sure, that what else can we do? That's not what resistance looks like. We can't celebrate the resistance of the Palestinian people and then, lie back and be walked all over ourselves. I mean, that's so wrong.
absolutely. And I think that there is a global movement at the moment. People are becoming more politicized. I think the mainstream media are really losing their mainstream tag because more and more people, especially the younger generation, are getting their information from different media outlets and TikTok and YouTube and X and all the different media outlets, and it's absolutely shocking what we're witnessing today. The the the, the extreme genocide, the torture of prisoners, the starvation, the bombings. It is absolutely dreadful, and I, for one, I am very proud that I am out there when I can to show my solidarity to the Palestinian people and to continue, because this is a struggle for humanity. I think I'm really proud that there's hundreds of thousands of people marching every day, and we will do the same against the move to NATO.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
Things, sorry, Patricia, on that point, like you were saying, it's important to show our solidarity, and I think that's very important, and you can do that. There's a lot of, national rallies organized to do that. But what I have noticed, even in your own actions, that you have a message, that you have something to say, and that solidarity is one thing. It's, yes, it's marching. Maybe for some people, that's a big thing. Yes, it's holding a flag, but it's also saying what is uncomfortable. It's also saying, you know, like it's not easy, and it's not meant to be easy, and it might be unpopular as well, but you say it anyway. Like, I remember reading somewhere, like, say it even if your voice shakes, say it. And to have a message, because others will thank you for it. They kind of know that to be true, whether it's like, what's the root cause of this genocide? Is our message just stop the genocide because we can't bear looking at it anymore? Or is our message the root cause of this genocide is to do with expansionism, colonialism, empire, uh, hyper extreme capitalism at its absolute worst, and pinpoint the root cause of the problem and say it. And there's actually, I've witnessed people, like having a sense of relief when they actually hear somebody is saying what I'm afraid to say or what I was sort of thinking. So you're confirming for them that they're not mad. They're not mad, and we are not mad in tackling the root cause. We have to. We have to. And that really shakes, the establishment and the people who are in positions of power. They are okay with us marching up and down with a Palestine flag. They're not okay with our message that is a message of education, a message of hope, a message of resistance. They're not okay with that, which means we have to do it more.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, someone once said to me, to use the term imperialism is outdated. And I think that the ugly face of imperialism was never laid more bare by the US.
Yeah.
And that's exactly who our politicians are going to cozy up to. No, not on. But anyway, I'm mindful of the time, Róisín. Just two other things before we finish off. What is to be done? And I think that we have touched on that. What would you say to young women, young families, and young men who are struggling with a mortgage, who are struggling to keep a roof over their heads, what would you say to them? What is to be done? How do you counter this? How do you demand your rights?
Well, the first thing is, I think that we have to work locally together. We have to build community. Community has been absolutely destroyed. And, when you have a community, whether it's on your street physically, or even a community of people where there's solidarity, where you meet, whether it's like us meeting on this, even virtually, that you build and start to share ideas, that you're not just sitting talking about all of the problems. You make time, that in all of our activities, everything that we do is political, and that it's not something that gets, compartmentalized. So, and you can do that more whenever you enter, when you have your community around you and when you reach out to others, and that you always, when you're talking, that everything is political, and that people don't, first of all, feel isolated or alone, and that there's support in that, even like the practical support of helping each other, when it comes to being able to do something to empower each other, means I can help you do this and you could help me do that. And that kind of mutual aid and mutual support needs to be built back up, because that's been entirely eroded to the point where even like community halls have been taken from us, and, or you have to book into places. So I think it's really important to open up spaces, to use our public spaces, to use all of our workplaces as well, to open up the conversation and normalize politics. That it's not something that, only a certain few people who are sort of politically minded talk about. And that will be work conditions, workers' rights, workers' mindsets, how people are coping, and support mechanisms through mutual aid.
Yeah. And also, I think some people would say, but I'm not political. I've often heard people say that, but we will remind those people who say that they are not political. Politics will not ignore them.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
yeah, but and every rights, rights were never given to us. We had to fight for them. Rights like maternity leave, sick leave, holiday leave, 8-hour day, etc., etc. And as the private sector is gaining strength, those rights are being eroded. And I think it's really important that we collectively fight for our rights and unionise, because they will not be given to us. Mm-hmm. But, Róisín, you and I spoke before we went on air about images, that iconic images of this year so far. And the first image I think you're going to share with us.
Yeah, so the image that actually you brought to my attention, it's a great one, is of it's a video clip from Nasrallah's funeral, where there was like over 1 million people in the stadium, and the journalist took note of one Irish woman who stood out, and her name is Tara Rayner O'Grady. So what I'm going to try and do is share that, share it with you now. I hope you can see it, Patricia. I hope everybody else can see it. Yeah. And I'll just play that for everyone.
Yeah. The coffins were carried aloft, a truck around the stadium, and as this was happening, I noticed a woman standing near me waving the flag of Ireland. I later learned that this woman was Tara Rayner O'Grady, the president of No Peace Without Justice. Remarkably, Tara held that Irish flag aloft for over an hour without taking a moment to rest either of her arms. Eventually, the coffins passed.
I mean,
yeah, I hope the sound quality was okay there, but
yeah, I mean,
what a powerful message to send the world, you know, from an Irish woman with the tricolour and not bending her arms. Mighty. Mighty.
And she was there as an internationalist. She wasn't there as a nationalist.
Yeah.
And not, I mean, I think that was really powerful. So we definitely have to give a shout out.
Yeah, Tara Rayner O'Grady. We don't know, I don't know you, but the world knows you now. And like you say, you know, internationalism and solidarity is just so important to travel all the way over there, and to bring our message of, you know, respect to that funeral was really, really important.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tara.
Absolutely. Now, the second iconic image is of a Lebanese woman.
Zahra Al-Kobesi. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Zahra Al-Kobesi. And I'm just going to get that up now. Let me see.
She confronted an Israeli jeep, an Israeli tank, looking down the barrel of a gun, showing no fear. But I mean, I think that was such a powerful image.
That's a picture of resistance, if ever you saw one. You know, the huge, like the juxtaposition of this huge tank and then one woman. You know, if you're a bit nervous or a bit afraid or reluctant about confronting power, just look at that photograph and it'll spur you on. You know, if she can do it, we can do it.
And she stood, and it was the victory sign. She stood in front of that jeep, and I mean, they were shooting people around her. It was an amazing. Now, the other image, which we don't have, is Dr. Abu Safia. What an image of resistance. He was the director of the hospital, and he was standing wearing his white coat again looking down the barrel of an Israeli tank gun. And he was abducted, taken to prison to be tortured. I think it's very important that we send Dr. Abu Safiya and all the healthcare workers and doctors and nurses and paramedics who have been abducted, tortured, they're still in prison, to all the prisoners, to our sisters in Palestine who are imprisoned, to our brothers in Palestine who are imprisoned. I think it's very important to send them a message of solidarity on Women's International Day.
Hear, hear. Yeah, agreed. And that's, that's another, I think sometimes people forget, some people think, about the revolution, that, the revolution doesn't have to start with a rifle. The revolution and resistance starts with saying, no, we do not comply. And, you think about doctors, healthcare workers, they resisted at, again, this huge sacrifice. They could have left. They could have, sought asylum elsewhere. They could have, and they didn't. They resisted. So that's, for me, the message on International Women's Day is about standing up to power, confronting power. And I'm glad that you mentioned Dr. Abu, that it's not just, let's just celebrate these women. Our movement, International Women's Day, is it's a working class movement. It is for everyone. It is not about pitting men against women or saying that one gender is superior to another. Not at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we go, I would urge people to read, I think you can get it on the internet, Lenin on the Women's Question by, and it's a conversation between Lenin and Clara. I think it's a really fascinating conversation, and it would certainly open up your mind. Anyway, Róisín, thank you. And
thank you, Patricia, and thank you to the Peadar O'Donnell Socialist Forum for marking this really special day. Thank you.
Thank you, Róisín.
Slán go fáil.
Slán go fáil.
Listen up, we've got a war zone here today, right in our heartland. And across the USA, these multinational bastards don't use tanks and guns, it's true. But they've declared a war on us, fight back, it's up to you. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. And it's time we started calling the shots. Going to work could be the death of you and me, but we're not unarmed. Our weapons, solidarity. Jim Beals and Karen Silkwood, the list goes on and on. With every year that passes, 60,000 more gone. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. And it's time we started calling the shots. When they boost your cocaine, war on the workers. Don't you know what to say? War on the workers. When they talk privatization, war on the workers. And cooperation, war on the workers. When they call you a team, war on the workers. You better learn how to scream. War on the workers. Oh, that's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. And it's time we started calling the shots. They can lock us out, they can lock us up, we cannot give in. No more lies, no compromise, we'll battle till we win. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. War on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. And it's time we started calling the shots. When they talk flexibility, war on the workers. Every worker stiff can see, When they poison your water, don't go like lambs to the slaughter. When they foul up the air, you gotta show that you care. When they talk WTO, you best be screaming hell no. Oh, that's a war on the workers. Oh, it's a war on the workers. Oh, it's a war on workers. It's a war on public education. It's a war on child labor protection. It's a war on the 8-hour day. It's a war on occupational health and safety. It's a war on social security. Now thanks to WTO, GATT, NAFTA, MAI, the IMF, and the World Bank, it's a worldwide war